All right. I'm not sure if people have any questions related to what we discussed yesterday. We did quite a bit. My hope, right? My hope in all of this is that your excuse me, your respective groups have got into a stage where they've at least created repositories that you're going to be working with, and perhaps you've at least all attempted to set up initial repositories, right? Is that a question? Yeah, I don't know. I thought I heard somebody ask a question or something, but no question there. I guess that is as far as I can tell anyway. So anyway, I was wrapping up a workflow, potential workflow that you can use, and just to highlight here that if you happen to find yourself in a situation where you're using a different cloud-based platform, cloud-based service, different from GitHub, what you can do is follow through with the same workflow. So you can easily plug in Bitbucket there and be able to, often wondered why people are not serious with life here, but be able to do this, right? All right, so I thought now would be a time for us to just briefly talk about software configuration management, and then we'll discuss different types of.
Your screen isn't shared.
Oh, really? I thought I shared it. Is it not just you? Is it not shared? Is that the case for everybody else?
I can see it, sir.
Yeah. So, Elijah, I want to check your end here. I think everybody else can see the screen. Right. So, I mean, essentially, right? I mean, you want to ensure I put things into perspective. I know some of these things we probably briefly talked about them as I was going through this workflow here. But in the event that people miss this, we thought we would explicitly highlight why configuration management is important, especially from the perspective of developing software, right? Writing code. Granted, configuration management transcends different barriers. So for instance, if you remember, when we were talking about the different versions of your SRS documents, now that's a document. It's not really source code, it's just a regular document, right? We introduced this idea that you can version the document. The initial document that you came up with was hopefully version 1.0. What you're going to come up with is perhaps going to be version 2.0, right? So the question to ask here is, how do you keep track of the different versions? How do you refer to different versions, right? Configuration management comes into play here. It comes to the rescue. And you want to do this because typically software projects, as is the case with myriad of these other projects, will generally involve a number of different people working on different aspects of the project, right? And so you need a way to be able to harmonize these different changes that people are making, to be able to keep track of who is making what change and why they're making that change, right? And it gets even more complex, right? You can, when it comes to software, you can find yourself in a situation where you have individuals that are working on different versions of the software, right? But same deliverable, but different versions of the software. It could be that maybe you're developing a piece of software that's supposed to be used on different operating systems, perhaps, and so you have the one group of individuals working on the same version, but for a different platform, and then you have this other group that's working on a completely different, the same version, but for a different platform as well. So Windows and Linux, for instance. Right, and so what we're saying here is that these different people could be working on documents, source code, which is, by the way, our interest in this discussion, because we want to make sure that as you're working on your feasibility prototypes, you're able to version the source code properly. It gets even better, right? Different releases of software. You want a way to be able to keep track of the different software releases. We see this all the time. When you go to Google, for instance, and you say, I don't know about UNZA website here, but I guess SIS also. But when you go to Google, for instance, and you say help or any other normal application like Ocular, let's not go to Google, let's go to Ocular. I say about, not about KDE, but Ocular. Ocular will tell me, hopefully, there we go. It will tell me up there that I'm working with a particular release, version 1.3.3. This has a hidden meaning here. Whoever is developing this software, now I guess would be a better time for me to clone this piece. Whoever is creating this software is keeping track of the different versions of the software, hopefully using version control software like Git, not JIT, Git, right? And what I want to do here is, I guess I should do this to showcase the different releases. And this is a very mature piece of software, so I will showcase this as an example. I will clone it in the background, and then later on, once this cloning is done, I hope I have enough in here. Once this cloning is done, I will showcase what I mean here by keeping track of the different releases. Very important, and cloning we discovered last time that is as easy as just a git clone, right? Right. So you want to be able to keep track of software releases, and there's different other reasons out there, right? But for now, hopefully this kind of helps put the point across. And again, just to showcase that this is not just source code. What I do myself when I'm working on a project that involves writing something, I take advantage of version control systems like Git or Git or Mercurial, for instance. I mostly use Git here. And to showcase this, I will just show you a project. Classic example of this is plain documents, right? There's no code here. Well, maybe there's a little bit of code here, but it's just a document we are writing. And we can easily roll back and see the different versions of, maybe I should look at the different document here, I guess. It's a bit much better, I suppose, I don't know. I think so. So if you notice, if I do a git status here, I have a whole range of commit messages. In fact, I can maybe just say git log and then commit. You notice that I have all these different commit messages, right? A whole ton of them. These are different changes I've made for the last 1.5 years in this document. It's still work in progress, by the way. 92 commit messages. Each of these different commit messages represent a version of the document at a particular point in time. The current version of the document is this, right? Very complete, but almost complete, right? But if I decide to say, well, what was the version of this document? Let's say on the maybe third commit message or something, maybe fourth commitment when I started writing this, I guess, I'll go to, I don't know what's happening, but I'll go to the part where I actually started writing this document, right? So I can scan through my commit messages. And what I'm doing, by the way, is I'm reading these messages that I was logging myself. And so if I was working with somebody else, they'll be able to retrace my steps as I am doing right now, right? So add the textual content to the thing here. I can switch to this branch, I guess, or branch here. And then you notice that hopefully this has changed, not yet. If I refresh this, not yet. Know who that is. Oh, this is different actually. I should, it's way below. I should, should just go back to the master branch, I guess. Okay. I'll check out the master branch, you know. Right, so anyways, the key thing here is that you can easily trace your steps and see the different versions of the document. I'll just go to March, maybe October last year, good idea. I'll check out this. I shouldn't have branched, I should have checked out, I guess. Beautiful. So you notice that this thing has changed. There's 18 pages, now it's 18 pages, right? And it looks completely different. I don't know if you noticed this. The ones with a keen eye would have noticed that the number of pages changed here. I can I can check out master if I want, and then hopefully just go all the way. I don't know if you're keeping track of this. I can go all the way to not May, but maybe not May. May is too far off. I can go to August, not August, but I can maybe go all the way up to, I'm still in 2020 here. I want to go last year, late last year or something, not October, but this is 2019, you notice, but I'll go way back in time here and say maybe September or something. I don't know if September will work. So I can check out this commit message, and what you'll notice is that I have 18 pages right now. But if I change to a specific commit message in history, you notice that this is 12 pages now. The document has changed. I have the key thing here is I'm keeping track of the different versions of whatever it is I'm working on, right? And this applies not just to documents, but software as well. But more importantly, software for us, I guess. Is this making sense?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, it is for me anyway. Right. So what we're saying is configuration management. Sorry, somebody was trying to call here. I don't know why people call in the morning. So software configuration management will help you manage the software that you're working on as it evolves over time. Because like it or not, if you remember, the last phase of the SDLC is evolution, right? So a process where the software gets to evolve, maybe by way of you adding additional features, right? So you have feature enhancements. Your clients or customers come back to you and say, we are willing to pay additional money if you implement a specific feature that is currently missing. The software is evolving, it's changing. Software also evolves if there's a bug that is identified, right? So bug fixes. So client comes to you and says, well, there's a feature that you implemented, but it's a bit buggy. It doesn't work as expected, right? You make changes, your software evolves. In all these different instances, as the software evolves, you're keeping track of whatever changes you're making. Why? Because you need a reference point for whatever reason. There could be reasons why you might want to roll back to a previous version, for instance, right? So you need to keep track of whatever changes are being made. Right. I hope that makes sense. I mean, the significance of software configuration management. I see this is the same stuff. I'm wondering why I had two here. There's probably a reason why I probably omitted a slide or something. I'll look into this here. So hopefully that helps you, helps put things into perspective, right? Justification for why configuration management is important, right? Key takeaway point for the phase we are at right now is we want to be able to keep track of the different changes we're going to be making as a group. So group member number one makes a change. He shares it with the other group, right? By pushing it to a centralized repository. The other members propagate, they take into account those changes, they update their local repositories, and we discuss this once you look at distributed version control here. They make changes, they push them to the central repository, the others pull, right? You're keeping track of the version of the software. And in this case, you're keeping track of the version of the software by specifying the commit messages. Of course, there are ways of doing this, right? There are other ways of doing this. You can use anyway, you can use labels. All right. So it turns out that when it comes to writing software, the best approach is to use a specific type of application software called version control systems, right? And it turns out that there are actually quite a number of version control systems. I just wanted to point out that, again, to wrap it in, the vast majority of content that's going to be discussed in this particular section of the lecture series is derived from this book called ProGit. It's freely available. I do encourage you to download a copy of this book. Most of the images in here are actually from the book itself. There's even an EPUB version of the book, so it should be quite easy here. So essentially what VCS systems do here is they help you keep track of changes to files or a set of files over time, right? So this could be source code files, your .java files or your .php files, or whatever language you're using, or your text files. And as you're making changes, as you're adding new files, as you're modifying the contents of the files, what the version control system or VCS system will do is it will keep track of the changes to the individual files. So you have a change history associated to each file that is a part of the repository you're working on, right? And the reason is simple here. You want to keep a traceable record of each of the individual files as they evolve over time, because you know that change is inevitable, right? When it comes to software project. So just showcasing an example here, we have this file which has associated versions here, right? So it could have version 1, 2, 3 or something, or a couple of other versions, depending on the changes that have been made. Now, do not fall into the trap of, please don't do this, into the trap of always creating a commit message, even when you just delete the word there, right? Or you delete a comment from a .java file, and then you decide to keep track of that change. That would probably be a bad idea. Maybe it would be fine, but I wouldn't do that if I were you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. You know, I was trying to see if I could. I was hoping I could see all the beautiful. So this is what I was saying. Sometimes you can look at the different versions of the software. So if you look at the display software that I've just downloaded here, you notice that there's a traceable record of all the different versions from version, I don't know if this is version 1 here, right? All the way up to the current version, which is 6. It's supposed to be 8 or something, but up to version 6 here. Do not fall into this trap, by the way, guys, where what I was saying is, you see, you have commit messages here, right? And then you come here and you pull the changes, and then you come here and you realize, oh, this person was saying, instead of this is another example, they forgot to put an exclamation mark, and then you put your exclamation mark, and then you come here and then you say, because it is a change, by the way, yeah, you say git add or git commit, and then you come here and say modified ICT 3020.java file or something. This would be very strange. What would you say for the description? Added exclamation mark at the end of print statement. That's weird, right? Well, you can do this. No one's going to stop you from doing this. But the thing is, you want these commit messages to represent major or significant changes, which is why the approach to use, right, is what I do myself, right, is I don't commit every time I make a change, but when I put changes, I'm working on a large project and I put changes, once I'm done working on that project, on that particular day, or that part of the day, let's say morning session, that's when I'll commit my changes. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is you want to make sure that each one of these commit messages represents a significant change to the project. I don't know if this is making sense, but is it? Any thoughts here about how you should be doing this?
Oh, good morning, Doc.
Hmm.
Okay, sorry, maybe I will just take you back just one more step behind. I was following as you are doing this. I was also trying to do that because I also have a Git repository. So
as you should, yes.
Yeah. So I was trying. I cloned some work that I did on the laptop. But what I'm trying to figure out is how, after cloning, how I can check the versions that I had. I think I missed the point when you're doing that.
Well, so it depends. So if the project, right, if the repository that you've cloned, and usually these are like sophisticated repositories, most open source projects will keep track of the versions. So like this, I like using this because we're playing with this for a long time, right? If you notice, right, if you just do a git branch all, what you will do is it will list all the different branches. So you notice the one in green is the current branch, the default branch. But you have access to all these different branches. Now, in this case, the technique they've used is they've decided to say they will have separate branches for different versions of software. You can only do this is git branch -a, by the way. You can only do this if the people that are working on this project have agreed to say the way we're going to keep track of different versions is by using branches. Do you understand? Is that making sense or something? Some people, right? Some people use, I don't know if it's, some people use tags. Oh, they have tags as well here. Some projects will use tags. Thank you for the tags. Some people use tags, right? It's a way of keeping track of the different snapshots or save points associated with the software. Now the idea of tags is important because observe, if I go to this space, right, and I say git log, and I know there's probably simpler ways of doing this, not using a grep here. But if you look at the commit messages, right, how many are there? There's a total of about 13,400 commit messages, right? Different distinct changes from different people, right? If you're paying attention to this thing here, this author thing, have you noticed this author thing? If I, oh, what is that? If I just grep for, I'm just going to do something. If I grep for git log, and then I grep for, I guess, I don't know. If I grep for author, and I say I want unique authors here, unique. What you notice is that we have 6,000 people that have contributed software here. No, it's not 6,000, is it? It looks like it. I see translate is the same. Wow. Why isn't this giving me a unique? Why isn't this giving me a unique? It's supposed to be unique. Anyway, it's fine. But assuming this is unique, it's supposed to be unique though. Peter Brenton is the same here. Garbage. Man unique. Sorry, I need to check this count. Repeated printer. Okay, so it should be -2. So if I guess, I don't know, -2. So if beautiful. So I know that there are changes from 3,627 different people, right? These are the different developers that have contributed work to the DSpace software. Now, each of these the changes are different. Some of them are minor, some of them are significant changes. Some of them will result in a minor version, right? Usually, by the way, if you look at the tags, git tag, what you notice is that usually software versions are created in such a way that you have a major version, something that has, so three numbers are used, right? So if you look at DSpace version 1, let's go to 6. Oh, this is better actually now. If you look at version, I don't know. Let's go with this. They've changed the versioning, right? If you look at 1.3, if you look at 1.8.3, for instance, the way this works is that usually, right, the first number is the major version, like it's a significant change, right? And you see this in all different types of software. You see this in Ocular, right? If you go here, it's 1.3.3. Usually the convention is usually this is a major. This has like some feature enhancements, and then the last part is like bug fixes, minor changes, right? It's a small little change. It's something that doesn't really warrant you to update your software, but you can if you want to, I guess, I don't know. Now, each of these different versions, if you have a 1.3, if you have a 1.8.3, 1.8.0, each one of these different things is associated with a commit message in your repository. There has to be a way of marking it. The way you mark it is different. Sometimes people use tags. This is what I was trying to say. So this tag will represent a commit message somewhere here. It could have been this commit message, right? So instead of you using this commit message, you use an easy to remember word, which is a tag that will represent this commit message. Am I making sense? Am I making sense?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good stuff if I'm making sense. Okay, so now that this is a thing here, it turns out, right? So using a vision control system is one thing, right? But there's different types of vision control systems. There are so-called centralized vision control systems, right? Where the idea is you make use of this central vision control system server that is going to serve as a single source of truth. So the logic is simple here. The server platform will contain the vision files, and then the different contributors, the different people that are working on that piece of software, henceforth called clients here, will make changes and push the changes to the central, or to the single source of truth, right? So you have a computer that you use to push changes to the central vision control system server, and then you pull changes. Now it can be a bit tricky here if you compare a centralized vision control system to a distributed vision control system. There's a subtle difference, but a very important difference, right? And the difference is, I don't know if you can see this already, the difference is in the fact that instead of the client directly pushing and putting changes from the central vision control system, what you have is a situation where the clients will have the local repository that they use to work on, right? So you can work offline and you only push changes when the need arises, right? So you have your own local repository that you work on, and then you use the local repository to propagate changes to the server, right? I don't know if this is making sense here. So essentially, what you can view a distributed vision control system setup as being composed of client machines that have a mirror of the single source of truth, right? A snapshot. So as opposed to you constantly checking, pushing changes and putting changes from the central vision control server, you're not directly working on the central vision control server, but rather you're working within a local repository, and then you use the local repository to propagate changes, which is desirable these days anyways. I like it myself because that way I don't really have to wait. I don't have to worry about whether I'm connected to the internet. I can go off grid, right? Go away somewhere, go and meditate and write code or something, or work on something, do work. And then I know that once I come back, once I'm connected to the internet, I can easily push the changes. And I do this a lot, actually. Not going to the mountains to go and meditate, but I do this a lot where I work offline, and then I only push the changes when the need arises. It works quite well for me. I don't have to move around with my devices. I'll have a computer at home. I'm working on those changes. Once I'm happy with the changes, I connect the computer to the internet. I push the changes. I go to work. I have a computer at work in the office. I switch on the computer, and then I pull the changes. If you think about this, really, this is how Dropbox works, right? Behind the scenes. I'll let you in a little secret here. If you go to Dropbox, I don't know if you've noticed that Dropbox, last time I checked anyway, Dropbox, the free tier, keeps a version history of, and I've run out of space here. Can I ask for a favor? Please, I'll send the referral link. Please, click on the referral link and then install Dropbox on your computer so that Lighton has more space. Money is hard to come by these days. Dropbox keeps, and I'm serious about that, right? It keeps a trail, I don't know why this is, but it keeps a trail of, wow. It's a version, there's a version of, so if I was to look at a particular file here, if I can find the file, if I look at this file here, I hope it's activity. There you go. If I look at this file, so previous versions. Now this is an old file. It's like from 2017. I don't think I'll have 30 days worth of But if I had access to a new file, I could easily check the different versions associated with the file. I mean, like you can order this modified or something. And so behind the scenes, what you can do here is, anyway, what you notice is that this thing, descending order, this thing is actually keeping track of the different versions of the file. Backup example. It's keeping track of different versions of the file. If I check this, it's from September, but still it's odd. You should try this in Dropbox. What you'll be able to see is a version history of the file when it was updated. So behind the scenes, actually, Git probably makes use of a version control software. I guess this is what I was trying to say here. But it was a kind of lengthy way of trying to explain that process. Right. So I don't know if this idea of the difference between a centralized version control system and distributed version control system kind of works. It helps clarify things here. Git, by the way, is a classic example of distributed version control system. Each one of you guys is going to have a local repository that you use to propagate changes, right? Like this one, right? And then you're pushing changes to this. You're pushing changes to this thing here. Wow. I thought this was sample. Sorry. You're going to be pushing changes to this, right? You're going to be pushing changes to this central server, which is GitHub in this case. And by the way, like I said, GitHub could just as well have been Bitbucket. It's quite easy, really, or some other funny cloud-based service that is used. I don't know of any other. I mean, in the past, I do, for my Mamat, I do have access to a GitLab server, right? Maybe we should install a GitLab server on the list server so that we have a local repository that we can use to have students sort of like propagate changes there, and also GitHub and whatnot. Is this making sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's making sense.
Okay. It is making sense here. I guess I'll just try and highlight the fact that, as with most things to do with computing, there are always alternatives, right? So if you're thinking of playing around with potential VCS platforms or version control software or systems, I do encourage you to obviously look at platforms like Git, which is what we are using in this course, right? But besides Git, there's plenty of other platforms that are available out there. Is this Mercurial? What is this? I don't know if this is a. Oh, so this is it's called CVS, appropriately named, right? You can play around with it. The beauty with most of these tools that I'm showcasing is they're freely available out there and are open source, right? So one, you can play around with them and then do a comparison and try and see, is Git better than CVS? Is it better than Mercurial, for instance? But bear in mind that you want to invest time in something that is popular. Why? Because you want your transition to using some of these tools to be as seamless as possible. If you land yourself a development job after next year, you want to make sure that you've invested time in learning how to use a tool that is potentially used out there. All you have to do is go online and just say popular version control. Oh, it's here, software or system. I'm sure there's I was looking at this actually. I'm sure there's probably a market share rundown of the market share and how popular it is. So top on this is ranked, I guess. Popular, Git is #1, and then they're saying this is bias, CVS, and then you have SVN, Subversion, right? Mercurial. In the past, I did play around with Subversion myself. I've always been curious, so you should be curious also. Mercurial, I've never used Monotone. First I'm hearing about it. Baza, I've heard of Baza a lot. So you want to make sure that you look into some of these tools here. But anyways, so the CVS, right? And notice that the syntax for most of these tools is different. So these commands that the git log and whatnot, they'll be different for Mercurial, they'll be different for Subversion, right? Or SVN. You can look into Subversion if you want to. The idea is the same here, right? It's like somebody asking you, or Mercurial if you want to. Which one is better? LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Microsoft Office, sorry, which one is better? LibreOffice Writer, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, who cares? Well, I think I do, maybe, I don't know. But the tool is just a means to an end, right? The idea is the same. The things that you do are the same. Maybe the way that you do these things is going to be different. Like if you look at the quick start here for Mercurial, you see these commands here? Instead of, it's the same thing, right? Life is the same. It's just this one vicious cycle, right? You do the same things over and over again. Instead of you typing git, git log or git commit, look at this. You are writing hg push, hg commit. It's the same thing. Instead of you writing git clone, you just write hg clone for Mercurial. I mean, git, instead of git add, you're just going to write hg add. So it's the same, the idea is the same really. I don't know why they even do this, but so plenty of tools that are available. But of course, I mean, what's also important is as you are collaborating with more people, the world has changed now. You're increasingly going to find yourself collaborating with other people. There are plenty of opportunities online where you can find quote unquote remote jobs if you're skilled. When you find yourself or you land yourself a remote job, one of the things you're going to be doing if you're a developer is you're going to be sharing changes that you're making to whatever project you're working on with other people. And you will use version control software, right? The way that you use version control software is by taking advantage of these cloud-based hosting services like Git or Bitbucket. Some of the popular ones I know myself off top is obviously GitHub. We've talked about this. And tools like Bitbucket also, right? I do encourage you to look into Bitbucket. You want to invest time in these things here. They will help you in the future when you're looking for a job, which is what you will do. Everybody does this, right? Or when you come up with a startup idea and you want to collaborate with other people, right? Is this making sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here's the thing. I mean, just to try and regurgitate some of these things here, how you get to use a distributed version control software like Git. I mean, I'm just going to do a rundown here of these points because I already made mention of these points. I'm looking at the time and I'm hoping, I want to quickly just rush the Markdown 101. There's a new section that I've tagged Markdown 101. There are people that express interest in all of this. I'm just going to walk through some simple examples really to just talk about markup here. But in terms of how you go about using distributed version control software like Git, well, the first thing you need to do is you need to configure your installation, right? So there's a git config command. I showcased this git config command yesterday on my mobile device, right? Where I was configuring, I don't know if people remember, I was configuring my, I was configuring my username and my email. But it turns out that there are other configuration details that you might need to make. But the most important ones are, right? You configure your name, so you notice that Lighton has already configured his Git installation so that the name is Lighton Piri, right? I can change this if I want to. I can change this to, I don't know what to change it to. Oh, LP maybe, I don't know. And then if I come to git config username, it will be LP. And in fact, if I change it to LP, and then I come in here and I create another file, let's say they're teaching you how to do PHP now, right? I'll call this ICT3020.php. And then I do a git status or do a git add and then a git status again, and then I'll git commit, and then I'll just say added a sample PHP file. Added an example PHP file. You know, save this. Observe. If I change here, you notice now the author has changed to LP, right? From Lighton Piri to LP. So the configuration is simply there for a reason, right? And I guess I should have used a global thing here. Just say git config. I'll just say global here. User.name, I'll change this to item period again. Right, so, I mean, so this is the thing here, right? I guess maybe I should have just changed it locally as well, not just the global name. Seeing still reflecting the old name. Beautiful. So the other change that you can make here is the user email, very important. Why is this important? Because you want people to be able to see this here, right? This part here, very important. Something else that you might want to configure is, and there's different configuration details here. You notice if I do a tab here, an autocomplete feature, and I git config, you notice that I have different things like user.email name, sign in key. I can, what else is there? I don't know. Core is good. Core, I can change the core editor, right? I always configure this because when I'm working on the command line, I like to use a specific type of editor. But anyway, so configuration details, at the bare minimum, set your name and your email, and perhaps your editor here. Right, and then so creating a new repository is nothing more than you specifying or identifying a folder on disk that you're going to use to keep track of the changes, and then you just issue a git init, right? So git init. So you create a new folder, I'll just say another repository. I come into another repository, I'll create a file called readme or something, .md, and then for Git to be able to recognize, if I do a Git status, it will complain to say, this is not a Git repository because I've not initialized it. So I'll say git init to initialize it, and then I do Git status, it will show me that there are files here that are untracked, right? So essentially you initialize the repository by just issuing a git init, right? Good stuff. This is how you do a new Git repository. Now, when you're working as a pack, if you're a group of 4 people, only one person needs to do the git init and then push the changes to GitHub. The others will just need to do a git clone, right? So you go through the process where you clone an existing repository. Cloning an existing repository is quite easy. I just showcased an example of this space here. It's git clone and then repository name, right? So if let's say Lighton sends me a repository link to the project we're working on, all I have to do is, if I only I can, wow, if I could come across private, I guess, I don't know, I don't know if I can find a private repository. I don't know if Immaculate is working on anything interesting. Maybe I can clone some of her work. I hope she's, let me just see. Maybe I can clone an example of what she's doing. So, oh, maybe her CV or something would be good. It's much smaller, I'm guessing. So I'll just hunt for a private repository. Let's say Immaculate sends me this thing and she tells me, this is a repository. I'll just go here, code, and then I'll say copy, and then I'll come here, and then I'll say, well, I'm gonna git clone that, paste, enter. It's cloning, it's gonna clone it to this name, right? Now, if you want, when you're cloning, what you can do is you can clone it using a different name. By default, it's gonna clone it using the default name of the repository. Notice that Immaculate has named this resume, right? Or resume, or whatever you want to call it. It's resume, I guess. So there'll be a resume repository here. I've cloned it, right? I'm interested in, just run this and see. And then I'll run it, and then I'll have access to, beautiful. I'll have access to yeah, I have access to her resume, right? CV essentially, right? But what I'm saying about cloning is, if you want, you can change the name, right? As you are cloning, so git clone, right? That you can give it a name, right? I'll call this sample clone, right? And then it's going to, instead of cloning it to resume, the word resume, it will clone it to sample or samp here, I guess, underbar clone, right? So it's just like specifying the name of the repository. And then I can check the history, and then I notice here that the changes she's made here in April, she made job updates, added experiences, technical projects. Anyway, it doesn't matter anyway. Right. So you can clone an existing repository. You can pull changes, right? Once you get a repository, if you are checking for new changes, git pull. You can, it's just git pull. You can push changes once you make a change and you want to share them with others, git push, right? Most of these commands, guys, so they work in such a way that you have flags, right? Help is your friend. Just do a git command like push, double tap, or 2 hyphens, help. And then you have access to details of the different flags associated with git push, right? Git push or git push mirror and whatnot. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question as an concerning the recent GitHub thing to do with a bug. What happens to those people that don't really, probably won't be showing up in the editing or pulling or dragging up the information and stuff? I don't know really, because in these packs that we really there are some people that really don't I don't know really how to put it, but yeah, there are just people that don't really go along with the rules or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, so this is the thing here. You remember our discussion of group cohesion, group work. The question is, what are you doing to ensure that they're doing their share of the work, right? So what will happen to them is, there's a reason why I'm saying once you create a feasibility prototype, marks will be deducted for people that won't. If we don't see your commit message in there, it's quite easy, right? We expect to see your emails here. Once I do a git log for the different repositories, I expect to see your names here and your email addresses. If it doesn't appear in the repository, then marks are deducted. And these are easy marks, really. And if marks are going to be deducted, the odds of you getting a low score or even failing the course will keep on increasing, right? So what will happen is they'll be penalized because it's a way, in fact, for us, right? One of the reasons we're asking you to do these things is it's a way of keeping track of who is working, or at least who is making an effort to contribute. Am I answering your question? Is this what you're asking?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so we will. I mean, we'll hunt for them, and hunting sounds a bit twisted here, but we will. You're supposed to. There's a thing here. There's no freeloading here, right? You're supposed to. How do you live with yourself by not contributing? Right? Just walking through life and not just being a freeloader, right? Yes, some people are comfortable with that. Yeah, anyway, I don't know. So git push, git pull, git commit, all of these different commands I'm showcasing. Take advantage of the man pages. Just issue the command git, the command name, let's say commit, and then 2 hyphens help. It will bring up details of that message. But also, I do encourage you to use tools like, do I have, wow. Well, there you can Google up the changes, but also, I've forgotten my goodness. App. I'm forgetting the name of the app. I have so many apps now. I'm forgetting it's not DevOps. Zeal. There we go. if you want, you can install Zeal. I do encourage you to install Zeal. When you install an application like Zeal, not right now. I think there's you see there's manual pages for Markdown. There's no Git. But if I want, I can install document set for Git as well, right? Git. Oh, it's not here. That's fine. I thought it was Git. That's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. I thought Git was here. I was expecting it to be here. It's not here. That's okay. But Git, glib, I don't know what that is. Anyways, you can always look up this documentation or just search online and you'll be able to find these things here. Yeah, don't know. All right. We'll have a quick, the branching I already showcased. Again, just do git branch. If you're wanting to create a new branch, once you clone the repository, right? Like this, for instance, let's say you clone this repository. If I say git branch, I can create a new branch here, right? I can just say create new branch. I'll call this light and P or something, right? And then if I show git branch, or you notice that I have Lighton period there, and then I'll just say git checkout Lighton period, and then I'll start working, or I'll start working on the branch Lighton period. Now, I guess it's in green now. So whatever changes I'm making is going to be associated with this branch. And it's a part where like you've decided as a group to work in such a manner that you're working on different components of the project, right? So you have now named them proper, right? Maybe you can name them using your names, it doesn't matter though. But you want to be professional also, I guess, I don't know. So you can name them like this. I mean, you can have another branch, maybe it's a git branch. I don't know, Elijah or something, right? And then you see grid branch here, you have Elijah, you have Lighton, and then everybody will be working on a different branch, and then, yeah, at a later stage, you kind of major changes or something. And then merging is you just combine different, you're combining different portions of the repository, like if you have two separate branches, just merge them together. I'm looking at the time. I really wanted to quickly, can I? I'm rushing for a thing. Listen, before we start our testing, I don't know if it's going to be Sunday. I might not be around on Sunday, sadly. I'm traveling out of town, I guess, I suppose. And so if I don't make it on Sunday, then before we start maybe I can do this right now and then we'll do testing. Yeah, but I'm rushing for, I will walk you through Markdown next time we meet. There's another interaction that I have. So unless if there are any questions, I'm going to pause and find out if there are any questions here. This, what we've done so far, should be enough to get you started, get to a stage where you can now start pushing whatever changes you're making to a repository on GitHub for your respective projects. There will be an assignment where we'll specify the name of the repository, and you'll be explicitly told to add Lighton's email as a collaborator. All right. Please use your own assigned email addresses. Don't use your personal email accounts. And it's a lot easier for us to keep track of what's happening. Are there questions?
Sir, there's just something that I missed out. You talked about cloning and pushing. So you said only one person commits, or I didn't get that clearly, because like for instance, the way we are in groups and everyone has to definitely participate. So my biggest question is, so there are people that will be perhaps working on the front end, and those that will be working maybe on the back end of whatever we are working on. So how do we create two different repositories, or just create branches to say, that's where I just want clarity. And who does, like, everyone, like if someone clones whatever someone has started, and if that person makes changes to whatever has been made already, do they also push it and it goes directly in the master branch? Or I don't know, I'm kind of lost on that.
Well, so I'll use an example of your group, right? You see, what I'm saying here is that what I kept on saying, and I thought the workflow had sort of like helped put things in perspective. That's fine. What I was saying is, when you first do this for the first time, one of you, out of the 5 of you, one of you is going to have to, this is your group now, one of you is going to have to create the initial repository, right? It's going to have to make the first thing, just like the first egg or something, chicken or egg or something, or the first human being, I guess. So let's say Mwewa gets to create if it's with the L or no, I don't know. So let's say he creates a repository, right? So let's say you name it group 20 or something. You create the repository. He's going to have to make the initial change, right? Once he makes the initial change, hopefully he's the one who's created the GitHub repository as well. You can't have multiple people create. You can't create, only one person can create the GitHub repository, right? Only one person will be the first one to initialize the repository. That's the starting point. One person will have to create the GitHub repository. Let's say Mwewa does everything. He will make the change in his repository, push those changes to the GitHub repository, and then he will share the repo URL, the repository URL, everybody else. Now, let's say once he shares this URL, Mary perhaps makes a change. What Mary will have to do once she makes a change is, before she makes a change, Mary will clone the repository. Wes will clone the repository. Jackson will have to clone the repository as well. Everyone will have to clone the repository. You're cloning the repository because remember Git is distributed version control software, right? So you're cloning it so that you all have a local copy of the repository. You use this local copy to make changes. So Mary will make a change. When you make a change, you have to commit, you have to push. Before, Wes has cloned this repository. Before she makes any change, in fact, even Mary, but assuming it's the second one anyway. Before you make any change, you pull, you change, you commit, you push. Simple cycle, very simple cycle action. Everybody does the same thing, right? You pull, you change, you commit, you push. Another way of looking at change is you are working, right? You do the work, you pull, you do the work, whatever work this is. You commit, you push. You pull, you work, you commit, you push. Pull, work, commit, push. Pull. This thing. Now, a question to do with branching is it depends, and I've said this already. What you can do as a group is you can, depending on how you're working, if you're working on the same parts, all of you, then it's pointless for you to create branches, right? You can work with the same branch, the master branch, right? The same branch, that's the master branch, where you're just changing the commit messages. So every time somebody makes a change, you're keeping track of that change, using commit messages. So Mary makes a change, where creates a new repository, there's a commit message. The next person makes a change, there's going to be a separate commit message. No need to keep branches here, you're just complicating things. That's the simplest way. The simplest approach is just to use the same branch and not use different branches. It depends on how you want to work. You want to experiment with this differently. I don't know if I've made sense here.
Oh yeah, you have very much actually. So for just the last question, where we, for example, we have the front end and the back end. Maybe we have divided the tasks. Said these people work on the front end of this. So do we create different repositories now? We are working on different.
No, it's pointless. I mean, the reason you're working together, you're collaborating. See, the reason you also want to use the same repositories, you might want people to cross-check what you're doing. Use the same repository. If you have different components that you're working on, just create different branches. So create a branch called what? Front end. Create a branch called what? Back end. Create a branch called what? I don't know, database or something. Create a branch called what? I don't know, server side or something, I don't know. So that everyone is going to be working on these different branches. So whoever, if you're working on the back end, for instance, you just going to check out this branch yourself, back end, so that it's going to be in green, right? And then that's it. Then at some stage, you just make these changes. But at this stage, if I were you, because you're working on a proof of concept system, just work on this collectively as a group. Because what you're doing is just a feasibility. So looking at the time you have, you're complicating things. You only have like 2 weeks here, right? Guys, I need to rush. It's 10. I think the session I'm attending has already started. I'll see you when you see me.
Sir, just one question.
Yes.
Does it mean we have to do away with Slack?
No, why? Slack is a communication channel.
Oh, okay. I was kind of lost on that one.
Okay. Why were you lost? Were you thinking that GitHub would be replaced by Slack or something? How? So Slack is this. This is the thing, right? This must sink in as well. I told you at the very beginning that what makes this interesting and perhaps challenging for some people, this course, is it's centered around tooling, right? Everything in software engineering is centered around tooling. If you are good at identifying which tool to use for a specific purpose, like software engineering becomes really easy, right? Slack is a communication channel. Git is a version control system. Project Libre is a project management tool. You understand? So different tools for different things here. There are specific tools that are used for issue tracking. Once you develop software, right? If you are developing software for a client, and you want your client to be able to easily tell you to say, there's a problem with the software, this is a problem. There are issue tracker software platforms. Now, I probably won't get to the stage where we get to discuss those things. But the key thing that must sink in here is you must be able to identify the appropriate tool for a specific use case. So no, Slack still continues, because as you're interacting with people, as you're communicating, you need to use Slack. Guys, I'm late. If there are no questions, I'm going to log out. Yes.
So, I just wanted to ask if you can upload the smart RD document, the one that you've been referring to in lecture slide 9. If you can upload it on Moodle.
Which smart RD document? The SRS document.
Yeah, the one that you've been referring to in lecture slide 9. Just want to have a look at something.
Okay, sorry, maybe I'm a bit lost. Do you want to send me a mail about that? Maybe you can send it to the entire group, and then I will respond to it. And I know I haven't responded to some of you who've been asking to request for interaction for interviews. I will respond. Looking at the time, we'll briefly have an extension to the deadline for this SRS document, because I know that you are still listing requirements. Is that fine, Elijah? For the
Yes,
first part of the, okay, thank you. People, I have to go now. Bye. Thanks a lot.